Looking at the map right now, the weather across the United States is anything but uniform. What we're seeing is a divided country with 3 separate systems active at the same time, and each one is doing its own thing in different parts of the country. So let's break this down piece by piece and talk about what's happening, where it's happening, and what you need to know. The big picture is this. The United States is split into 2 main weather zones right now. In the north, northwest, and around the Great Lakes, cold air is in control and snow is widespread. In the south, warmer air is holding on, and conditions are mostly dry and calm with only light precipitation in a few spots. But it's not just a simple north-south divide. We've got 3 distinct systems operating simultaneously. There's a Pacific system bringing moisture to the west coast. There's a northern snow band stretching from the northern plains all the way to the Great Lakes. And there's an offshore cyclone spinning out over the Atlantic. Each of these systems is affecting different regions, and that's what makes this setup interesting. Let's start in the west with the Pacific system. Right now, moisture is streaming in off the ocean and hitting the coast of Washington, Oregon, and British Columbia. When that moisture makes landfall, it brings rain to the coastal areas. Seattle is seeing rain, Portland is seeing rain, Victoria up in Canada is seeing rain. These aren't extreme totals, but it's steady, persistent precipitation. The accumulation values on the coast are moderate, with places like Seattle around ½ inch and Victoria around 0.2 inches. But here's where it gets interesting. As that moisture moves inland and encounters the mountains, the rain transitions to snow. The Cascades, the Sierra Nevada, the Northern Rockies, all of these mountain ranges are seeing snowfall right now. This is what we call orographic precipitation. The air is forced upward by the terrain, it cools, and the moisture falls as snow. If we look at the map, we can see accumulation values in places like Idaho Falls around 1.6 inches, Salt Lake City around 0.4 inches, and Elko, Nevada around 1.2 inches. So the pattern is clear. Rain on the coast, snow in the mountains. If you're traveling through mountain passes in the interior west, be prepared for winter driving conditions. Now let's move to the northern tier of the country because this is where the most widespread snow is located. The snow zone is huge. It stretches from Montana and Wyoming all the way across the Dakotas, through Minnesota, and into the Great Lakes region. This is a massive area of snowfall, and it's being fed by cold air that's descended from southern Canada into the United States. When we look at the accumulation indicators on the map, we can see that the snow is not evenly distributed. It's showing up in bands and pockets where it's more intense. For example, up in Canada, Regina is around 1.9 inches and Winnipeg is around 1.3 inches. Down in the United States, Bismarck is around 0.4 inches, but Fargo is much higher at 4.3 inches. That tells us the snow is organized in a banded structure, and if you're under one of those bands, totals are going to add up quickly. The Great Lakes region is especially important to watch because this is where lake effect snow can come into play. When cold air moves over the relatively warmer waters of the Great Lakes, it picks up moisture, and that moisture gets dumped as snow on the downwind side of the lakes. Right now, Wisconsin and Michigan are seeing significant snowfall. Marquette in the Upper Peninsula is around 2.6 inches. Lansing is around 2.3 inches. Madison and St. Paul are both around 0.4 inches, so there's definitely activity around the lakes, and some of that is likely being enhanced by the lake effect process. If you're in western Michigan, northern Indiana, or western New York, areas that are typically prone to lake effect snow, you need to be ready for additional accumulation beyond what the broader system is bringing. The Rockies and the Intermountain West are also seeing snow, and this is mostly mountain snow driven by that Pacific moisture we talked about earlier. Idaho, Utah, Nevada, Colorado, Wyoming, parts of northern Arizona, all of these areas are seeing snow at higher elevations. The orographic effect is in full force. Moist air hits the mountains, it rises, it cools, and it snows. The accumulation values we're seeing in places like Idaho Falls, Salt Lake City, and Elko confirm that this is a mountain-focused event in the interior west. Down in the valleys, you might see rain or a mix. Up in the mountains, it's snow. Now let's talk about where rain is showing up, because it's not all snow across the country. The West Coast is the obvious place. Washington, Oregon, and Northern California are seeing rain along the coast. This is stable, frontal precipitation coming in off the Pacific Ocean. It's not severe, but it's persistent. The accumulation values on the coast are light to moderate, with places like Seattle around ½ inch and Victoria around 0.2 inches. This is the gateway for Pacific moisture to enter the United States, and it's a pattern we see often during the winter months. But there's also a rain pocket in the southwest, and this is a little more isolated. Southern California, southern Nevada, and parts of Arizona are seeing precipitation right now, and it's not connected to the Pacific frontal system. This is a separate, localized system. If we look at the map, Los Angeles is showing around 1.3 inches, and Las Vegas is showing around 4.3 inches. That's a significant amount of rain for Las Vegas, and it tells us there's an active precipitation pocket over the southwest. This is likely tied to a local low-pressure system or a disturbance moving through the region. If you're in Southern California, Las Vegas, or Phoenix, you're dealing with rain, and in some spots, it could be heavy. There's also a precipitation band extending from the Great Lakes toward the northeast. This band is visible on the radar, and it's bringing a mix of precipitation types depending on location. In the northern part of the band, where the cold air is in control, it's snow. Further south, in the transition zone, you could see a mix of rain and snow, or even just cold rain. This is the kind of setup where precipitation type can change over short distances, so if you're in this band, pay attention to your local conditions. Now let's talk about the East Coast, because there's a separate system out there that deserves attention. When we look at the satellite imagery, we can see a well-defined spiral cloud structure off the East Coast. This is an offshore cyclone, and it's spinning out over the Atlantic Ocean. The bulk of the precipitation associated with this system is staying over the water. It's not directly impacting the interior of the United States right now. But the coastal areas, especially in New England and up into Nova Scotia, could see some impacts. This system has the potential to bring wind, waves, and rain to the coast. If it shifts westward, the impacts increase. If it stays offshore, the impacts stay offshore. Right now, it looks like most of the action is staying over the ocean, but it's something to monitor if you're along the East Coast. Temperature is the key factor that determines whether precipitation falls as rain or snow, so let's talk about the temperature map. Right now, the northern tier of the country is locked into deep cold. We're seeing blue and purple colors on the temperature map, indicating temperatures well below freezing. This is ideal snow territory. Any precipitation that falls in these areas is going to be snow. In the south, we're seeing yellow and orange colors indicating warmer temperatures. Snow is not going to happen in these areas. The transition line, where temperatures are right around the freezing mark, is typically somewhere around northern Kansas, Nebraska, Iowa, northern Illinois, and northern Indiana and Ohio. This is the zone where precipitation type can be tricky. You could see snow in one spot and rain just a few miles south. Right now, most of the central United States looks quiet in terms of precipitation, so the main news is the snow zone in the north and the rain on the west coast. When we look at the 12-hour precipitation accumulation map, we can see where the heaviest totals are expected. The Pacific Northwest stands out because of the ocean moisture and the mountain enhancement. The Great Lakes and Northern Belt also show significant accumulation, though some of that is snow, so we need to think about it in terms of water equivalent. The Atlantic offshore system shows a large area of accumulation, but again, most of that is over the ocean, not over land. The central United States, places like Texas, Oklahoma, central Kansas, and southern Missouri, show very weak accumulation. This is the quiet window we've been talking about. If you're in the Central Plains, you're not dealing with any major weather right now. Let's quickly touch on Canada and Mexico, because they play a role in this overall pattern. In Canada, we're seeing snow and rain bands across the prairie provinces, places like Saskatchewan and Manitoba, and also in southern Ontario. This is the source region for the cold air that's descended into the United States. Canada is essentially feeding cold air southward, and that's what's setting up the snow zone we're seeing across the northern US. In Mexico, the overall impact is weak. The warm air mass is holding over Mexico, and that's helping to maintain the warm background for the southern United States, so Canada is the cold source, Mexico is the warm source, and the United States is caught in between. Now let's talk about risks, because that's what really matters. If you're in North Dakota, Minnesota, Wisconsin, or Michigan, you're dealing with snow and wind. That combination reduces visibility and creates hazardous road conditions. Blowing and drifting snow can make travel dangerous, and snow removal is going to be ongoing. If you're planning to travel in these areas, give yourself extra time, reduce your speed, and be prepared for winter driving conditions. Around the Great Lakes, there's the potential for localized lake effect intensification. If you're on the downwind side of the lakes, you could see heavier snow totals than surrounding areas. This is especially true in western Michigan, northern Indiana, and western New York. Keep an eye on the radar, because lake effect bands can set up quickly and produce intense snowfall rates. If you're in the mountains of the West Coast or the Rockies, mountain passes are going to be treacherous. Snow at high elevations means reduced visibility and slick roads. If you're traveling through places like Snoqualmie Pass, Donner Pass, or any of the major mountain corridors, check conditions before you go and be prepared for delays. In Southern California, Nevada, and Arizona, there's a pocket of heavy rain. If you're in Los Angeles, Las Vegas, or Phoenix, keep an eye on the radar. Some of those heavier rain bands could produce localized flooding, especially in areas with poor drainage or near washes and small streams. The East Coast offshore system is mostly a maritime concern right now, but if you're along the coast in New England or Nova Scotia, watch for wind and rough seas. If the system shifts westward, coastal rain and wind could increase. So, putting it all together, what we have is a divided country with three separate systems. The north is locked in cold with widespread snow. The west coast has Pacific moisture bringing rain to the coast and snow to the mountains. The southwest has a localized rain pocket, and the east coast has an offshore system spinning over the Atlantic. The central United States is sitting in a quiet zone between all this activity. If you're in an active zone, be prepared for the specific hazards in your area. If you're in the quiet zone, enjoy the break, but stay aware, because patterns can shift. This is the kind of setup where different regions are experiencing completely different weather, and understanding which zone you're in is the key to knowing what to expect.